Hey, everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino, and I am so thrilled. This is so fun that I am here with a man who has recently made some incredible history, that he has gone from winning a franchise to now becoming the host of Australian Survivor. Of course, we know him also as the winner of Deal or No Deal Island. Please welcome back the Golden God. It's David Genat. David, how are you?
Rob, I'm so good. It's very early in Australia at the moment, but
It's very
very
early,
good.
and I appreciate you making some time for us here as the Australian Survivor finale is coming up in just a couple of days. It's been an incredible season, I guess, as per usual on Australian Survivor, but this one has been really, really fun. It's been a really chaotic post-merge. I've had the pleasure of catching up, so we will do spoilers and talk about all that. But let's catch up for a minute. How have you been?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I just flew back into Australia because we're doing a live announcement. We're doing
Oh,
the whole thing, the reunion.
nice.
Everything's gonna be taped in Australia for our finale next week. So I'm back to do that, and I've been going really good. Like, it's been such a good season. It's so bizarre as a huge fan of Survivor to get to be on the other side of things
Hmm.
and like see how things are done, and then watching the edit back from the host perspective is
Yeah.
really, really trippy, Rob. Super trippy.
I'm sure. Because I really was thinking about you and this position that you're in because it's so unique. And I was just trying to
Mm.
think about the number of people that have done what you've done. And it's really very few people that there's my friend, Kristen Kish, who she
Yeah.
won Top Chef and now she's the host of Top Chef. I think some people have come out of The Bachelor and now they have different Bachelor hosts who have come out of the show. But really,
Mm.
that your position is so unique because that the Australian Survivor or the Survivor hosts really have not changed much. That Jeff has done all the seasons, and for all of the talk of like, oh, one day Boston Rob is going to host Survivor, it's never happened. But
Yeah.
here you are to come with this such a unique background of having played so much Survivor, but now sitting on the other side of tribal council and being
Mm.
the host and being behind the scenes and all of that, it must be so surreal.
It is. It is. But it's amazing. I think like I think the transition from player to host is probably the smoothest you can get, as opposed to someone who doesn't know the game. And like, maybe there's people who would be good at hosting and crafting that, but there's just so much that happens
Mhm.
in Survivor, and having to understand all the nuance of the game and being able to facilitate a game without giving away people's gameplay. Like, I think I had a pretty distinct advantage, especially because I'd played so many days of Survivor before I took over, you know?
Yeah. Whenever I get away from Australian Survivor, I sometimes I forget just how great Australian Survivor is, and I don't ever mean to come on and poo-poo the American version of Survivor because we're having season 50. We have all these players that are back right now, and so
Mm.
in its own ways that there is an epicness to Survivor 50, but Australian Survivor is just always so good.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
mean,
good and it's so
I think there's
pure.
room for both. There's room for both shows
Yeah,
to
oh
be good.
yeah. Where I'm not here to
You know?
dunk on the U.S. Survivor. I just that it's really you forget sometimes when you spend so much time in the U.S. Survivor, like, oh, like, yeah, this is Survivor. We're playing Survivor. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Wait,
I mean, it's
wait,
great. I just think it's like they almost exist. It's the same kind of core concept, but they're just quite different shows. You know, and I think there's a few things that make Australian Survivor different. It's like a lot longer. There's a bit more challenge centric. Like, there's
it's a
bigger
lot
kind of
different.
like, yeah. So there's a few things that make it distinctly different. But in a way, it's almost like there's two separate versions of the show. And I love both. Like, I love American
Yes.
Survivor.
Yeah.
I
You know,
obviously love Australian Survivor.
I'm not trying
But
to put you in a position to, say neg the U.S. Survivor, but I want to talk about like how satisfying Australian Survivor can be because to me it's such a, especially in a season like this, it's such a war of attrition. And the U.S. Survivor, I think that they want it to be, hey, it's fast, it's everybody's on their toes. You don't know what we're gonna do next. But you know what? Sometimes it's like really fun to just let people play Survivor.
Yeah, and that's really what we wanted to do this season is like that game exists, like let the players play it.
Hmm.
And we give them all the pieces of the puzzle and they have to put it together how they want. And then when you're relying on the players to do that, their creativity shines through. You're not worrying about producers having to do creative things. Like we'll add some twists or we'll put an advantage or something in there, but like our cast, they're amazing people. And we're like casting these people who are so creative and love the game and like want to play. Some of them don't know the game that well, but like they want to play, and then that creativity is what gives it its spark, you know. And I love that. I think there's a real purity to that, you know.
And I want to talk about all of the big moves in this crazy post merge, but I'm just
Mhm.
have been so interested watching you because I knew that this conversation was coming up and having you go through this first season as the host. And I bet it must have been a challenge to sort of like find the line of you don't, you want to be fun, but you don't want to be too wacky. You don't want to come in and sort of take up, because I feel like, and I hope you take this the right way, as a player, I felt like that you were always the center of attention. I feel
Mm.
like you enjoy that in your
I
game
yeah,
playing. You are
yeah,
the golden god, but I almost
yeah.
feel like that as host, I almost feel like that you are trying not to make it about you.
Oh, 100%. Like I wanted to just let the players shine a bit more. Like for me, the show of Survivor has always been about the players and investing in. When I was watching, there was players that I wanted to emulate, or I'd be like, oh, I would do it like that, or like you're thinking about the strategy of how that goes, and that never really included for me the host. So I wasn't going to host a show and become like this big character. Now I think
Mhm.
it's good for me to have like little banter and funny moments and like interact with them is super important. But in terms of like being a character on screen, for me, it's always about the players. And so that's what I wanted to do this season, just to make sure that you gave the players a chance to shine, especially when we had 4 returnees, but we had 20 new players.
Yeah.
And like for the show to be successful, we need stars. We need people to play and become big characters so that people are invested in them if they come back for another season. So I was there more to facilitate that than anything, you know?
Do you think in any ways it was harder for you to come back in a season that had returnees, where I kind of feel like that if it was just straight up new players who came in, that it's a little bit more that, okay, you're unimpeachable, but you have people, not only returnees, but also somebody that you played with in
Yeah.
Brooke.
Yeah.
Wa-
Yeah.
were there challenges there of like, okay, all right, now I'm not your friend David anymore. Like
Yeah.
I'm the host.
Yeah, there definitely was some challenges with that, but I liked it. I think it kind of gave me a bit of like respect mystique because these are people who I'd
Mhm.
played with who already respected me from the game. And when you're coming in as the host, you need them to like listen to you and respect you. And you can get that, you build that, but when like a previous host already has that respect built in, you're walking out going like, "Whoa, there's Jeff." Like there's an instant feeling of that, right? And so I had to have that built in from day one, having never hosted. So I'm trying to find that rapport with the players, how I want them to interact with me, how I want them to respect me, how I want them to listen to me. But because I had those 4 returnees there was always going to be that little extra bit of banter because two of them are pretty close friends with. Like Brooke and Harry have been like for good friends of mine, Brooke especially, like we're very close. So there was a lot of this like having to keep up a almost like a bit of a fence with Brooke, but obviously some of the times on the inside, I was wanting her to do well. Like, and a lot of the challenges, you know, you're seeing an actual friend like struggle through these painful moments, and I'd have to be in my head being like, no, you'd done that before. It's not that bad. She'll be fine. She'll be fine. But I kind of really liked that. I really liked that human element to it. And then like with Brooke, obviously, like I hugged her
Yeah, it was that was a
after I
really
snuffed
nice
it.
moment.
Yeah, and I think those kind of things are what makes Survivor special because it is human stories, right? We're telling
Mhm.
these human stories. They're going through an incredible like ordeal, but it is really about that story of like where they've come from, what they've pushed through, and like what they've achieved to be in that moment. And the torch stuff is a really special moment. Like everyone who's sitting there has seen that happen on screen, but they've also like earned that spot. So I wanted to make sure that felt like a really big moment for them. They've just they've just blown their chance at a lot of money, and to sit in that space, and like a lot of them are coming from like their head spinning because they've just been blindsided. You want that to be their big moment because it's the last time you'll kind of see them on screen, other than that little tail interview or if they make jury. But like, I wanted that moment to just be really, really special for all of them, you know. And so you're trying to keep up that mystique about you, you know. But then with Brooke, I just kind of, she was like, "Can I have a hug?" I was like, "Yeah, of course, come back."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a unique relationship. I mean, I don't think
Unique
we've ever had
relationship.
anything like that before in Survivor. Now, the torch snuff, that's a very important
Mm.
part of the job. Did you practice that a bunch
Yeah.
before? Yes.
Yeah, man. Plenty of times. I mean, we did a lot of rehearsals. There's a lot of pre-production that goes in. Um, just even with camera placement, because I'm a much bigger person than Jonathan as well. So when they're like setting up tribal council, it was just from the stool height to the height of the torch, where it's going to sit, what my hand is going to do for clarity of filming. There was a lot of thought going into that
Hmm.
because I'm like 6'4", so it's like a
Yeah.
lot of the players are
I noticed
smaller.
that, I
You
think
got to
with maybe
try to
it was the Cameron vote out. I was like, wow, like David is like, is he standing in a hole?
yeah, so I should have just like just knelt down a little bit, but you
You
know,
should
so there's a
dig a
lot of
hole
stuff.
for you.
You just like step into it. The tribe is spoken. But there's a lot that goes into it, and I got to do it like a bunch of times. I think when the first time you're hosting this show that you love, there's so many surreal moments that happen because you're saying these things where it's like 24 players, 45, you know, you're doing all these things that are like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. But the torch stuff for me was the biggest. And we ran through that so many times. Like, and there's also some like, you know, health and safety stuff where they're like the guy that's in charge of fire and stuff, make sure you don't want to like set someone on light, you know, like there's
Oh,
a bunch
wow.
of stuff you have to do. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of technical stuff behind the scenes they do. So I got to practice it heaps. Yeah.
You know, I think it must be very hard to come in and host Survivor and just not do a Jeff impression or a JLP impression. And I think that that must be like the instinct of just, okay, I say all of the things, say it the way that they were saying them. And I think it's probably really hard to find the things to put your own spin on them. Did you find that a challenge to sort of like find your own voice for this?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, did you ever watch Seinfeld? Are you a
Yeah,
Seinfeld fan,
did
Rob?
I watch Seinfeld?
The,
Yes,
these
yes, and I liked
pretzels are
it when
making me thirsty.
you said in I believe it was in All Stars that you said to Jericho, "That's gold, Jerry," right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I
I was
remember
because
that.
I was a huge Seinfeld fan. But yeah, it's like it really is these pretzels are making me thirsty. Like how many ways can you say that?
Yeah,
And there's certain beats in the script we have to say. Like you have to say the tribe has spoken. So you've got to try to find that rhythm of like how it flows naturally. You want it to like really mean something, put some gravitas behind it or whatever you're trying to do. And not sound exactly like the other guys who have said it or done it, you
yeah,
know? So
yeah.
for me, that was more just about like being in the moment and letting it flow as that was going. But it is tricky because the framework is good for a reason. Like Jonathan was great. Like I don't want to change too much about what Jonathan did, like especially some of those beats. But like you know, you've got all these scripted things you have to hit, and then you're able to ad lib inside that that little environment, but like it's been created for a reason. And Jonathan's the mouthpiece for a script. I'm a mouthpiece for a script. I'm not sure how much scripting Jeff does, but it's like that's kind of
Yeah.
how it
You haven't
plays.
rapped yet.
I haven't. I'm not sure I will. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Not my bars aren't nice.
Yeah.
No, I'm not good.
You know, but watching you as a host, I feel like that a big influence on you, what I'm seeing, I feel like that I see Joe Manganiello from Dondi. That
Yeah.
has that part of your hosting influence?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I took a lot of stuff from Joe. I think I spoke with him a lot about doing this. And his kind of like stance. And I mean, I put a lot of weight on because of Joe. Like I was, when we were trying to figure out how to differentiate myself from players, he's like, dude, just get big, like put weight
Get
on.
bigger.
So yeah, get bigger. So that was kind of like something I intentionally did before the season to try and like lift a lot of weights to make myself get more stature. But yeah, I picked up a lot of stuff from Joe. I talked to him a lot about it and like what he bought. And the thing that Joe did for us with Dondi is like was always locked onto him. Like his presence when he was there and like hosting, I was always like, whoa, are you really listened to what Joe was saying? And sometimes he was saying some crazy contrived stuff because of the challenge. But like he just had this presence to him, and that's more what I wanted to emulate is like that experience that Joe gave us on Donnie.
Being the host of Survivor is, as you know, a very hard job. You're the umpire, but you're also the voice of the audience in the show. You're also the play-by-play person in the challenge. You know, it's hard to find the line between the player's friend that they turn to and also the cop who's calling them out when they're breaking the rules. How do you know where to go in the different like roles of the host of Survivor?
So a lot of it is our team. Like I would love to be like, oh, it's just me like freestyling out there. But like we have a whole team of like producers and directors and story producers that give you direction based on what the challenge is going to do. And we'll rehearse it a couple of days before. And like they'll have a dream team run it. So I'm already have an idea of where I want to take it with commentary on a challenge because we've run it with like fake players. So then when it comes, obviously the players always do some crazy stuff that I'm like, who would have even thought of doing that inside the bounds of this challenge? But you just kind of run with that as it goes. But we already have these beats that we want to hit, how you want it to happen. And then you just come at it from a place of authority. If they're doing something that's illegal or not supposed to be doing, I just have full license to be like, look, stop, we're going to do this. You can't do that. And then you just kind of like, you know, play a little good cop, bad cop. And for the most part, the players are generally pretty don't break too many of the rules. Like they try to be creative or they try to think outside the box and do stuff. But for the most part, they're pretty good about staying inside the bounds of the game that we provide them.
You got thrown into the deep end of the pool here this season because for both Jeff and JLP, they got to grow with the show. It was season 1. The players didn't really know what they were doing. Everybody's sort of just like figuring it out. You come into this season, and this has been one of the crazier Survivor seasons, specifically at Tribal Council, than I can ever recall watching. And so you're doing your thing. You're in the zone. You're asking people questions, and constantly there's whispering. There's people doing like turning to each other. Do you have an idol? Okay, let me give you the idol. Okay. And then people get up and they walk around. How do you practice for, okay, do I stop what I'm saying? Do I address the people that are talking? Am I doing play-by-play of like, okay, all right, well, Keeley just got up and she's now she's talking. What do you think? Like, how do you prepare for that?
I love that. I love that. So when that was kind of happening, I just wanted to let that happen. And there's like in these environment, especially at tribal, there's a real power in silence from me sometimes, where like because you'll be bouncing that ball around with some questions where people just don't want to answer it, but like they're reality TV, they want to be reality TV stars. Someone will talk. So a lot of times I will use silence to let something come out when people are, oh, maybe they're a bit buttoned up and they don't want to talk about this or they don't want to give something away. And you can use silence to just be like, and then someone will sit and then I can chase them. So these moments when people were like standing up, if I was in the middle of a question, I'd let someone kind of finish. But like, I want that to resonate with the guys who are sitting down. I'm like, you see what's happening here. And a lot of times I would point it out to them because I look a bit confused, but I'd be like, there's only 2 people standing up. You saying you don't have a move to play here, but there's only 2 people standing up and there's 3 of you sitting in these seats. So, I mean, that must mean something surely. And that was like, that for me, that was really fun when they were doing that. I know it kind of like felt a bit chaotic, but to me, it added like this really good tension and energy to our tribal councils. And I think probably Mark Warnock set the tone with that when he flipped one of our votes by stand. Yeah. And once that started happening, now other people want to do it too, you know. So it sets this pace of like, oh, I'm going to do that. I want to be a part of this. And I love those side chats.
In a way, it's easier when they get up and they stand up and they've sort of like that's actually happening. But in sometimes that like it's like they're like they're whispering to each other.
Side whispers,
but you're in the middle of talking to somebody. It must be hard to say, okay, do I pull out of the questioning? Do I just ignore it? Like, Brooke, is there something you want to share with everybody? You know, it's like
Yeah.
How do you make that call of like, am I blowing up their
It's
game?
really just feeling it as it's
Yeah.
happening, right? Because like sometimes like they are nervous to chat. It's like kids in a schoolyard in a way. Like they know they probably shouldn't be talking because someone is speaking, but there's also like I've spoken about this a little bit, but like there's a real tribal craft for players. Like good players have this tribal craft where they can construct their narrative and they can hold court in tribal and speak and they're going to be like, here's the story of what's happening, where there's this undertone of what they're actually going to do. So tribal craft is really, really important. And if I thought it was something that was affecting like someone's grand moment, they were doing a setup, yeah, maybe I'd call it out or go with it. But a lot of times those little side chats are just paranoia for people being like, are we good? Are we good? And there's not much to it. And sometimes I could hear it, sometimes I couldn't hear it. And so just depending on what thing to follow, it really is based on what that person I'm engaging with it at the time is saying. And like I set tribal up because, you know, we have that idea of who's going to go home or what the story is going to be for this tribal council. And like, if you're going home, Rob, I want to get a grab from you that's basically talking about how safe you feel. So a lot of these things are going through like a motion of getting you to a point where I've like, oh, we got Rob. You know, he's said what we need him to say. And then you can, you know, you go through those motions of the vote and everything happening. So as long as it wasn't affecting too much of that stuff, I love those little side chats in the drama.
Do you feel like that you have a unique training for this job where, okay, you're at tribal council, you know what story the production is looking for to, okay, this is like the what is happening in the episode. And so whereas if you were at tribal council, you might be operating a certain way. It's almost like that now you're using it's in some ways it's a similar set of skills of like, here's what I want to accomplish at this tribal council.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the difference is when you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle. Like when I was a player, like I went into a tribal and I was like, this is what I'm trying to accomplish at this tribal council. And I just 100%, like, unless I got a really bad vibe from someone, I was like really believed in what I was doing. I had to trust myself that like I had a good read from the scramble, that I'd come into tribal and I'm like, all right, this is the story I'm going to craft for the audience, for Joe, for the other people I'm playing with who I need to pull the wool over their eyes. And that's how I would operate. I would talk irrespective of what I thought was happening, because you have to at some point trust to the people you're playing with. Now, you don't trust them all the way, but like in that scenario, if you're going in there being like, oh, I have no trust in Rob, like, he's like, I like, it's going to ruin my whole shtick at tribal. Whereas for me, now that I know where these guys are all sitting and what their general vote is going to be in the tribal council and what we want to get out of story for tribal council. It's more about like not giving their game away and giving them a chance to have that tribal craft, to do what I once did when I sat there without blowing their spot, but also keeping them a little bit accountable. There's an expression in Australia about playing a straight bat, because in cricket you play a straight bat. It's a very defensive maneuver, maybe like bunting in baseball. And a lot of people play a straight bat, and we don't want straight bat because that's terrible TV, right? Like we want people to be able to like talk about what they're doing or like weave their web or their lie. And so a lot of those times it's more me just trying to get them to not play a straight bat. Like give me that grab, like give me something related to what your game is. So people at home, we're making a TV show. Like you need to entertain, you need to tell your story without just being like, I don't know, it was a good day. I really love Rob, he's great. You know, like there's just all these things you have to work through, but it's just finding it in that moment. But having known what I wanted to achieve as a player gave me incredible insight as a host. So then I could give that to them in those scenarios, you know?
I thought you had a really fun moment at one of the last episodes I watched where you were asked, I forget what the exact quote was, that you asked Cameron if he was going to pull an Icarus. And he was like, what, wait, what don't I say? And then you was just, I thought it was a very fun, lighthearted moment. He said, you know what, I'm done. We're done with you. Jackson, yeah. Okay, let's go to you now. But yeah, I think that's, you know, really just fun stuff that you've brought to it. I want to talk about, there was a moment in the season where I think this was another one where you must have been like in uncharted waters, where Simon has told Jackson earlier in the season that, hey, if we go to a tie, I'll pull a rock for you. I'll take 2 rocks. out of the
Yeah.
bag. Simon in confessional says like, I can't do that. That's against the rules. And it was a little bit at tribal council. I didn't know if you were going to reveal that or not. You had a moment where you said, "What's that? 2 rocks? How's that work?" And
We had a big
yes,
meeting about this. We had a big meeting about this. Because if someone does ask me to clarify a rule, I do have to clarify it, right? And so, but we also loved it comes back to that creativity of our players, right? Like finding this is what I love about Survivor is just when you think everything's been done, someone finds just like this little angle or a new bluff. And for me, what Simon was doing with that, I thought was so fun and creative that he would even think of that, which is what makes Simon such a great player. But yeah, there was a big meeting where we were kind of discussing like, do we blow his spot on this? Like, how do we let it happen? And it needed to be addressed and hinted at, but unless there was going to be a direct questioning of the rules, how do we handle it? But there was a lot of chats around it because it's just like those little fun things we know are going to be moments for the show. You know, someone comes up with something you're like, oh, that's going to be so good. We're going to love like expanding on that. And I actually really wish they had gone to rocks on that one, just to see his face
yeah.
in the moment. But
yeah, they teased us with
yeah.
rocks so much this season. Unfortunately, it never ended up coming to pass. I love the theme of the season. Redemption is, and again, I could tell you about the U.S. Survivor, how I really missed the themes. I think this was a really great theme. I think that unofficially, this idea of redemption and having sort of these wounds that the players, especially the returning players, has been kind of an unofficial theme in Survivor 50. But I love how you all have leaned into it in this particular season of Australian Survivor. Did the theme redemption mean anything personally to you?
I mean, definitely when I kind of heard it, and obviously stuff was coming out about me hosting, and it wasn't being super well received, and everyone was very upset about Jonathan being removed. I was like, oh, it did start to feel a little bit for me, like, because I thought, you know, I'm going to be able to do a good job here. I'm going to do my best here, and I hope at the end of the season, like, people have changed their attitude towards me being in host. So yeah, it definitely did have a bit of a personal element for me, and I think for me, themes. Like people, I love the theme. I just think it's a great story plot that people can hold on to. And our game is long, Rob. Like there's a long time out there, and small things that you wouldn't think matter become big deals. Like even just socially, right? Like the way you eat rice can become a problem. So like these things with like themes, and I'd seen it when I'd played. My first season was champions versus contenders. And like that became a big deal. Like the people who were being called champions, like it's really divisive and it works. Those kind of things work. So I think for us, like with redemption, and I don't know, some people go, oh, I don't know, see what the point of the theme is, but like these guys were coming in and like even if they just messed up a move, they were like, oh, I want redemption for this move, and it made them play like really hard. And a lot of the players who their ideal of redemption was maybe they hadn't quite succeeded in their life or been where they wanted to be in their life, that became their own personal redemption, you know? And so for me, I loved it for story because I think like they grabbed it, you know, and it's like you're not always seeing it on screen where they're like, I need to be redeemed, but like they really, it was a good thing.
See, I can't speak for you as a Survivor player, but I think that every Survivor player that I've met, whether they've won or not, they're all chasing some kind of redemption. They all feel
100%.
like that something didn't go right. Even the ones that won, but they didn't show me, blah, 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 or I didn't get enough credit. My edit wasn't what I said it was, or this person said I wasn't the best winner. So all the Survivor players are chasing. I think that what this theme is like, these first time players, like everybody, not just Survivor players, every human is in some way, shape, or form is like looking for redemption, no matter what's happened to
Yeah,
them so far.
100%. 100%. I completely agree. And I think it's quite a relatable theme for most people because everyone just wants that little do-over, especially if you're talking about people who have played before. Like I know hundreds of people who have played that would love redemption for their Survivor game. You know, they thought they were coming in doing one thing. It wasn't that. It was perceived the wrong way. And so just to give them that opportunity, I think it's huge.
Yeah. even this way that the season has played out, where it was a season that was dominated by, you know, the returnees and Keeley, and even like some of the first time players really like they stepped into the spotlight and they had their moment, like Ben and like Cameron, and they're all gone. Every single one of them is gone. But in some ways, that it was these people that were called the passengers at times. Like this is like a redemption for the players who were told throughout so much of the season. It's like, hey, we're calling the shots. You're the background characters. You're not the stars. And somehow ultimately their redemption is here. That's the final four.
But well, it's so brilliant, right, of the returning players to set that kind of feeling up because
Yes.
they've seen an edit come out. The new players have never had that experience because there's multiple experiences when you play Survivor. As you know, there's the experience of what actually happened to you on the beach, the experience that you have no clue about, like what people were saying about you, all that kind of stuff, you being voted out, the divisive stuff behind your back. But then the edit is a completely different experience. And once you've gone through that, you realize there's this language that exists that if you use it, it's going to be on the show. And so for the returning players to just kind of set that thing up of like, well, you're not doing anything. You the riffraff, you a passenger, you all this stuff. We're seeing that as the audience. Now, if you haven't played, you don't really have the advantage of like doing that. I don't think it's particularly true that these guys were passengers like that. But they just the language that's getting used by the returning players sets them up so that now our final four have this. Well, they were passengers, but they're there. They're the ones that are there. They're the ones who have done it.
I thought it was so interesting to talk about this. And when, you know, we've certainly had this idea of this is something that Tony in US Survivor talked about, the lions versus the hyenas of like, okay, the big players need to stick together. But I want to know from you if you think in some way it backfired on the returning players and the big dogs, in that they set up this environment where they kept telling these people that were on the bottom, you have no chance. You've made no moves. There's no way you can win. The only thing you could ever do is work with us. That's the only chance you'll ever have because that's your only move. And they ended up sticking together in a way. And I forget if it was Ben or Cameron who said, hey, you know what? We have nothing to lose and we're not afraid. And they ended up setting up this situation where it's like, hey, none of us can win anyway. We have no winning chance. So our only winning move is to stick together. And in some way, I think that became such a powerful weapon that undid those people that were at the top.
100%, 100%. I think you nailed it. Like they were using that kind of language that really, and I think at one point Ben was calling it the revolution, but they banded them together in that way. But what I really loved about this season is that even though they were kind of taking swings, we haven't had, yes, there are people who have kind of stuck together, but they've been stabbing each other in the back like every second tribal. So they were really focused on having to make a move, which I'm like, that's what Survivor should be. You should be making a move. And I don't think in our final four, we've got someone there that can't say they weren't responsible for something happening in the show. Now, of course they kind of banded together, but like people have been like, Jackson took out Ben. Like there's been these like backstabby moments of like people having to vote their friends out, even Keeley with Brooke. But it was that initial setup. And this is why I love returning cast so much, you know, because they really raise that level of like forcing these guys to like figure it out and play really hard. And you're right. I think they kind of like dug their own grave in that way.
I think that this is a very interesting season for you to be the first host of, because I think that this season is almost the exact opposite of the season that you won, where we have a season where you dominated, you had all kinds of records for confessionals. And, you know, I think that to most of the viewers, it seemed like a foregone conclusion for the most part. David's got this. And then, you know, it wasn't a season with a lot of like twists and turns in terms of like the outcomes. It was, you know, sort of like listen, I mean this is not as a compliment, a steamroll for you.
You say what you like. No, it did end.
This is not a steamroll. This is the opposite.
Rob, I'm just that good. This is the exact opposite. But I think the other thing is when I had played, we were on our 5th season of Australian Survivor,
Yes.
and we were in this mode where people kind of felt like our winners hadn't been physical players, hadn't been like good at challenges, and or
Hmm.
hadn't had like the chops to kind of like really get where they were. So no one believed I was going to win All Stars until afterwards, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that was a
Hmm.
lock." It was so obvious, but I was up against it the whole time, where the fans were like, "There's no way after season 4 this guy's going to win." And then the narrative started changing after the
I'm
actual
sure
fact of the
in
season.
the
Oh,
real
it was
time,
so
I'm sure it
obvious.
very much seemed in doubt, but
Yeah,
like I think that
it
it
was
was,
so obvious.
yeah. But this is very much not that in
It's
terms
it's not
of who's
that. We
left.
haven't
Yeah.
been able there hasn't been someone that's really been able to step into that leadership role because they've always been usurped, which I
Hmm.
think is fantastic for the game. It's just been so interesting for this season. And like even our pre-merge was really, really solid. Like and just after merge, it's just ramped up. Like people have been swinging and shifting and changing alliances, and it's been magical television.
You know, all the returnees brought so much to the game coming back. They all did great. None of them ultimately got their redemption, but they all, I think, can hold their head up high that they played really, really hard and brought a lot to the show. But I'm really fascinated by some of the first time players that you found, and I feel like Keeley has to play again.
Oh man,
I think that
Keely was unbelievable.
I thought she was going to win up until the point that she went home. I really felt like, okay, this is going to be where, you know, she worked with the returnees and they forgot to get rid of her. And I really thought that she was, to me, she was just so brilliant that the tribal council were her and Brooke. One has the real idol, one has the fake idol. That was just one of the most fun things I've ever seen on Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, I think Keely's game was incredible, was absolutely incredible, and I think like when you come in to play Survivor, you got a 1 in 24 chance of winning that money, but you've got 100% chance of becoming an absolute legend if you make these moves and you do stuff. And for me, Keely has just got taken her game into her hands, and she's not going, "Oh, I might." Oh, maybe I'm gonna win that one. She was like making sure that if she sat at the end, she was gonna win that thing, and like the selfless idol plays and like those are the things we love to see, especially when it's done successfully. And like it takes real like moxie to be able to do those kind of moves. And like Akili is just like a diamond in the rough when it comes to players, you know, because she was down to do that
Yeah,
stuff and
she was
unbelievable. She
amazing.
was so fun to watch out there.
I really came to love Ben also, where he
Yeah.
kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, like who is this guy? He's sort of like the leader of the resistance. And then I was like, wow, this guy really. I felt like he really came into his own, and now I want to see him play again also.
Yeah, well, Ben's narrative is he kind of came out of nowhere because that's what happened out there. Like he was, I thought, oh, we got a true hero here. We got someone that's like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna be honest about how I'm playing this game. And then at some point, he was like, ah, let's go. And he just like completely came out of his shell and started playing so hard. And Ben was like, I mean, one of my favorite characters, like super physical, playing really hard, standing up to like no one really wants to step into that leadership. Leadership is tough because you know you're going to get taken out, right? If you band the people together and you're like, listen, I'm the figurehead for this movement, you're going down. But for him to like actually do that was like, oh, so ballsy. And he was just a great player this season.
He really was, and he really came into his own in the confessionals, and he really it
Funny.
was just fun
Yeah.
to watch him over the course of a couple episodes. Really, but like, where did
Yeah.
you come from?
Well, it takes a little time for them to get used to the camera and be okay with them, like
Yeah.
because there is that element of like, oh, I don't know. In Australia, also our cultural like it's a bit different to America, where like I think Americans when they're playing like are good to go with sound bites and like they're happy to just like jump in and give us our best. Whereas Aussies, it takes a little bit to warm up because it's like culturally not that cool to be like, yeah, I'm here, this is me, I'm good. And
Hmm.
I think for Ben, it just took him a bit of time to warm up. But once he figured out what he was doing with that, oh my gosh, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Even Cameron had a moment where then in the vacuum of leadership after Ben was gone, where then Cameron all of a sudden became this larger than life character where he took over for a couple episodes. And so
Yeah.
it's like every time like a big, like, you know, even Mark goes out like, oh, who's going to fill the vacuum for Mark? It's just like
Yeah.
then and Brooke picked it up, and Keeley picked it up, and Ben, and so it's just like it's been like one person after the next has just like taken the torch in terms of like becoming the big character that's going to meet the moment.
Yeah.
And it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting the final week to see, who of this four really rises to that occasion.
And grabs the torch. And I
Yeah.
think they're all positioned in different ways to be able to do it. But yeah, it was funny seeing Cameron, like his big exit episode where he was like talking smack to me. That was Cameron the entire time. But you just like, how do you put that into the edit? Like, it would have just gotten, the audience would have been like, oh, dude, what? But he was just constantly doing that smack talk and trying to banter with me and like being funny. And I loved Cam. He was a lot of fun out there.
Somehow in this season that has been, every vote has been like so tight where it's one vote is the margin. Somehow at the final 7, it was 6-1 against Cameron. Everybody's just like, we had it with this guy. That's how bad it got. It was crazy.
That was the one definitive vote. They were just like, these guys got to go.
Yeah. So I'd love to just talk through, as somebody who has such a background playing this game, do you feel like, did you see the moment where it sort of got away from the returnees and Keeley? Because it felt like for a little bit, they just kept getting through tribal councils. And like, I can't believe they did it again. And then ultimately they ran out of horseshoes and 4-leaf clovers. Do you feel like you saw where that happened?
Yeah, we did, and I think like as you're watching it unfold too, and then like also there's something that happens with the physicality because we're now 40 days deep where people haven't been eating, and I could really see on Brooke there was like a big kind of physical change. She was a very small person as it is, but about 40 days in, just the way she was moving and talking and the brain fog happening to people. And I was like, oh, she's losing steam here. And I think a couple of shifts and a few things changed. You saw how she fumbled the half idol with Caleb. Like, that's not Brooke, that's just like game fatigue, I think. And a couple of things go a little bit differently. And I think Brooke could have maybe jumped through a few more tribals, but you could feel that kind of shift in the tribals, in the body language, and being at the bottom. Like, playing off the bottom, man, it's tiring. It's like really, really tiring. And she went through so many weeks of that, so many tribals, that I was just like, oh, I think we could be cooked here. And like, you can feel the energetic shift as they were just kind of like piling on. But she just did so well to scrape through so many of those tribal councils.
Yeah, she was really cooking for a minute there, and I really felt like that she had a good shot. I'd love to hear your thoughts about Simon, who I just, I've always loved watching Simon. I think that he is always he gets so excited and then the rug gets pulled out from under him, but he doesn't give up. He keeps coming back. And, it just felt like I didn't think he was going to get to 100 days. I thought they were going to pull the rug out from him right under. And then he ultimately, I guess he never was gonna get all the way there, but I wanted to believe that Simon was gonna win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Simon played so well this season. I think there was you saw all four returnees kind of played it in different ways, and especially pre-merge, Simon was really kind of like playing a bit under the radar. I thought we would see him, because I knew Harry and him were quite tight. I thought we would see him stick up and like really push to play with Harry and bring Harry further through the game, which he didn't. And he kind of took a bit more of a back seat on a lot of the strategic stuff at the start, so that when Simon did kind of come out as a force, I was like, oh, this is going to be trouble here. And he had quite a contentious relationship with Loz, which we didn't see too much of that in the edit. But there was a few things where I just saw Simon became so dominant as he stepped into this leadership role where he was making other people believe they were the leader. And I think that's really good gameplay. I think we're talking about grabbing that torch and running with it. You kind of want to be the person behind the person pushing them with the torch and being like, that's the leader. And I think Simon had done such a great job of that. But like, I love watching Simon on TV. I think like there's this great thing with Simon about like, you really want to see him win, but like when he doesn't, it's fun to watch him fail. And he's just such a good sport about the whole thing, like the show and the fans, and he just loves the show, and he doesn't take anything personally. And that can be tough in our business because like our fan base is very, very opinionated and very loud about opinions. But people love seeing Simon just like dust himself off and stand up again. And I think he's fantastic at doing that.
Yeah, he was really, really fun to watch. And, Mark also became such a big character in this
Mm.
season. And, he played in his first season, of course, in a season with Ferris and Kirby, and they had so much going on that you sort of like lost track of Mark, but he really came back
Yeah.
and he was Godfather Mark this season. And that was so fun
100%.
also.
100%. It was amazing. And I think he had come back. He'd come off a season where he was in these other two people's shadow. And he was like, now I'm going to cast a shadow. And he just stood up and was going hard, Rob. Like, that was evident from the start. We'd be in our meetings and I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
dude, you are really, really going for it. But I think Mark's whole thing this season was more like better to, burn out than to fade away this season. And he really wanted to just like grab it and he did it. And like it was so fun to watch him out there. Because he was just like really, I love proactive gameplay. Like I love it. And Mark was just on the front foot the whole time, pushing this and that. He had a few little missteps here with some of his alliances, but he was incredible to watch this season.
I love the moment in the tribal council where Rich ended up going home, and he asked Rich about how he was doing, and Rich was like, "Oh, I'm fine." And to me, that's triggering for me because I'm
Yeah.
married, and I know if somebody tells me they're fine, it means they're not fine, and so it's like Mark is my hero.
Mark is my hero. I also just really love, like I know. Survivor in some places has gotten to this point where everyone's just like, oh, it's just great. It's just so happy to like do this and do. I love real like little savage things. Whereas like Mark was like, you should have voted for me. Oh, I did. Like I love stuff like that. I just love when people like stick the knife in a little bit on the way out and do take the game personally. Like there's so much on the line and it's like so serious. And I just love these moments. And like Mark got a few really good ones there with like the thing with Rich, the bit with Faith, like those kind of like little passing shots at tribal. I love. I think it's just savage, and I just love it.
I can't ever remember another season of Survivor where so many things are happening at Tribal Council where, sure, you have like, of course, all of like the normal stuff that happens at Tribal Council, but so many side conversations and like one-on-ones, and even like Simon and Jackson when on the vote where Ben goes home, where, Simon's trying to pull him in and Jackson's like, no, I'm not with you. But then he does vote with them. It was just really, really, there's been such great theater at Tribal Council this season.
It's been great. But I think also that thing for Jackson came from wanting to make that his move. He wanted to be able to claim Ben's thing and, having Simon be like, oh, and he's like, no, I'm not playing with you. I want it to be my move. And then obviously watching it back in retrospect, you get to see Simon's great work in like planting the seeds. But it comes back to that idea of like with Survivor, whose move is it? If you and I are like basing on something and we're on the beach and you're like, it'd be great to like vote Jeff out this season. And I'm like, yeah, that is a good idea. And then I start to mobilize and get my people. Is it your move or is it my move? So you got to figure out how you can claim those kind of things and make really distinctive moves for your resume. And I think that was Jackson's way of being like, no, it's my move. I'm not playing with you. That's mine.
Yeah.
But then...
Yeah, that's a great way to talk about the resume and the big moves, because I think that's also been such a big part of the season where everybody is just very concerned about resume and big moves. Now, you're somebody who's won the show before. Do you think that's overblown, all of the resume and big move talk?
No, I don't. I think also it was something that I was fostering a lot as the host. Any kind of chance I'd get, I'd be like, you guys need to move. Like you get into the end game. Like if you feel like you haven't done something, like now's the time. You got to sit there at the end and say you had something. Like you got to craft your narrative. You got to craft your story. And I know it's something where I think like the fans hear it, they're like, oh, big moves, this and big moves that. What's a big move? But like I just want moves. Like I want people to make steps.
Sure.
To do something so they can sit at the end. Like I don't want someone sitting at the end being like, yeah, I was there, and then I had a little conversation with Rob about this, and then that happened. And like our finale this year is so tight. It's so tight. I really can't wait to film it.
you and I, we're in the same boat on wanting the big moves and wanting people thinking about their resume, because it gives you all a great show and it gives us stuff to podcast about. We're happy
Yeah.
when the big moves happen.
Yeah.
For the players, though, I'm just not sure that it's always in their best interest. But I think that we both want them to happen. But I think that sometimes for the players,
I agree. I think
yeah,
sometimes it's not in their best interest, but I also think it comes back to what I said. Like, you have a 1 in 20. There's a lot of luck that happens in Survivor for you to get to that position where you're in the winning spot. So yes, there's really great players and there's good engineers and there's good like game players
yeah,
that get there and they're in
and
that winning spot.
yes, and I agree
But
with you also. I feel like that it's so hard to win. You might as well just go for it and see what happens if you get lucky. And if you don't win,
100%.
at least you have a chance that you became a legend.
Exactly, exactly, and like that, I think Luke Toki on my very first season of Survivor had said something to me. He's like, you don't want to be sitting at home after you've gone through all this thing and not be seen because you did nothing on the show, right? Like, you just were going along with things, you didn't make any definitive moves or any stuff happened, and like, if you're not in the edit, a lot of the times it's because you didn't really get to
Mhm.
make the moves you wanted to make. So do something like play. And it's also like this the stuff with these game pieces that exist, right? Like, we put pieces of the puzzle into play to make things interesting to happen. And there's so many small opportunities in Survivor that if you don't grab those ones that come to you, like, you might miss it and not do anything. So it's making these big moves and I know big, just even saying big moves makes me go, but like, making moves and getting stuff to happen and trying to make shifts, you don't always have that opportunity. You don't always have the social capital to do it. So when you do, you've got to move. You got to make it happen. You find an idol, you've got to use it. You got to play it. You get an advantage, you got to play those advantages. I just think playing like that ensures that you're going to be like well remembered in the show, and then if you're at the end, you're going to win. If you leave those things aside and you don't play them, or you just kind of like don't let it happen, it's to me it's like anti-game. And I think there's this contingent of players that kind of come in the anti-game. They see a thing and they just let it slide, or they let this happen, or they don't want to do that, or they don't want to play the advantage, or they're not sure they played the advantage. Like, get it, use it.
Yeah, who's
Like, that
that
would be
fun
my number
for?
one piece of
Right.
advice.
I
Yeah.
want to talk to you about this final four, and maybe we could go through them one by one and give us a little bit of a preview from what you're
Yeah.
seeing for these four players that are left. That one of them is going to be the sole survivor. And I guess, why don't we start with Sally, who kind of had her coming out party this week?
She did, yeah. I mean, Sally has been a pretty big part of the game out there. She won the car. So coming from that kind of like car curse history side of things, like, it was really interesting for me, especially in the edit, to see Sally coming out and really trying to make things happen. And she was even that move with Brooke where she was like, listen, give me the half idol. I know a lot of people like as if Brooke would let that happen. Obviously Brooke's a very seasoned player, wouldn't want to let that happen, but that's the kind of effort you need to see in the game. Now, I think we got into a situation with a half idol last night, which kind of turned into a bit of anti-game, but like, it's Sally's first run. And I think she is just trying to like think on her feet in terms of like, what's my story? What's my narrative? She's trying to figure out what she'll say when she sits at the end. And Sally's had a pretty great social game. Like, she's played well. She's got a good story. And she's been moving through things strategically. But I love her. I think she's been a really good part of the season.
Yeah. She had that interesting move with the half idol with Keeley at the tribal council, where I think that she wanted to demonstrate to the jury, like, hey, I have things, I know what's going on. Keeley, let me get your half idol. And then I'm actually not going to do anything with that. I just wondered, did she antagonize Keeley with that?
That's the way I kind of read it. And that, to me as well, that's where I go, oh, it's a bit anti-gaming. Like, if the move was to get it and then use it, like, play it in a way that then benefits you, even if you do blindside Keeley with it. To me, like, the not play, again, like, in that moment of like, you're so close to the end, you don't want to mess anything up. She does want Keeley to go home. Like, is it contrived to then use the idol to put her out of the game? Like, so there was a couple of things. She was a bit in the hot seat. And then also Keeley revealed to her the half idol at tribal. If she had advanced knowledge of that, you probably have a bit more time to go, okay, here's how I'll do it. I'll I'll just vote Keeley. I'll get everyone else to vote on Caleb and then engineer it a bit better. But it kind of came out at the tribal, and now she's going, oh, okay. She had to think really. She had to think on her feet in a moment where she hasn't eaten food in like 41 days. So
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So I can see why she still wanted Chile to go home and why that kind of happened. But obviously there was other things you could have done with it. But it's easy to be on the couch and be like, oh yeah, this is what I would have done with the idol. I would have clicked it into place and like
Yeah. And Keely's the big dog, so okay, that's sort of like a nice pelt to put on the wall. But how do you show the jury, hey, this was my move and I'm taking credit for it, so I'm gonna take
yeah,
away her thing and not use it on her. So I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like where it came from. I'm not sure if the jury sees it that way, but let's talk about Laws,
No.
who also,
Rob, I'll tell you actually. Let me tell you one funny behind the
please,
scenes thing with that idol. So our art department are amazing. Like they're like working on these game mechanics like nonstop, months and months beforehand, and they've made this really great magnetic idol. So that thing had this really definitive like click into place,
yeah,
and we were all waiting for this moment of like her at the tribal. She almost did it. She was sitting there. She put the two pieces together. We've got a great shot of it, and she got and then changed her mind and didn't put it together, and then stood up and walked over. And when she came over to give it to me, she actually turned away from the cameras and put it together, and
yeah.
then came out with it as a whole idol.
Mhm.
And the art department collectively were like, "No!" It worked so hard on this like magnetic.
I was impressed, like when it went together. I'm like, oh, that's pretty
It was
good.
so beautiful. Like when I'd seen it in like testing, it was amazing. And then the
Yeah.
moment kind of like completely got washed because she did it with her back to the camera. But yeah, Loz, sorry, we got derailed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell me about Laws, who she also came to, into her own really the last like 2 weeks. And we got the backstory about her father. She had this really great story about how she started to bond with her dad, who was dying, about Survivor. And
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
think that's really cool when people, like families, that they, that's what they connect around. And I
yeah.
hear from a lot of people like that. And so she has this great story with her dad, and then she goes into training, and now here she is with a shot to win.
Yeah, I mean, it was really relatable for me because that was a big part of my deal or no deal story, right? Because my dad had passed, and so Loz and I kind of related on that
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and that we actually had some moments where some of her challenge things and challenge where she was talking about her dad that just didn't really come to light in the edit. But I think for Loz, that family connection and playing for her two girls. She's got a beautiful story. She's a lovely, lovely person, Loz. And like socially, this season has been almost untouchable. I think like for me, her social game was akin to kind of like Shan, who I played with, where it's like they've got they've got strategy, but they're socially, they just make people feel comfortable and they get pulled into these situations. And yeah, I really love Loz's story.
Okay. What about Jackson, who also has come into his own, where he was a right-hand man with Ben, but then he was
Yeah.
like, he flipped. I mean, this was like wrestling, where
Yeah.
he then like, oh, he's a good guy now. Now he's on with it. Now he's with the people we're rooting for. With all due
The
respect,
heel turn. Yeah.
yeah, but it was like a face turn. It was like, he came and he hit Ben with a steel chair, and then the crowd went
Yeah.
wild. He's like, yeah, now he's working with Brooke and Keeley. It's Simon. He's in the four,
Yeah.
and this is great. And then he wins immunity this episode. He's coming into his own a little bit, and here's Jackson.
He's an entertainer. I mean, he's a wrestler. I saw that from the start with his when we were in tribal because Jackson was always kind of one that was easy to go to for a grab. Like he
Sure.
understood that concept exactly of tribal craft of being able to do those kind of
Yeah.
big gregarious takeaways. I think strategically he moved quite well through the game. Socially, he's been good. Like he hasn't rubbed people the wrong way too much. He's like kind of come into his own physically. Like he's won that challenge, but he wasn't too imposing. Like Ben is this like imposing like challenge beast character, and Jackson kind of just like he never overplayed too much of that stuff, you know. And I think the thing I love about Jackson is that he's just an entertainer. Like, even if it came down to like little beefs, sometimes I'd be like, why is he so upset at Caleb? But I think a lot of it, especially at the start, would be him just he's just like, I need a rival, you know, I'm
Hmm.
gonna be the heel, I need my face. And like, so he was finding these moments. It was really, really fun having him out there. And yeah, Jackson was great this season.
Do you know what his wrestling persona is? Do you know anything about his wrestling character?
Scott Green. So
Scott Green.
randomly,
That sounds like my
he
neighbor.
yeah, no. Well, so we have Grayson Waller,
Yes, of course.
who had played Australian Survivor, and it's good friend of mine actually. And Scott had kind of come from they're very close friends, and so there was already this like tapestry that had been woven between him and Harry and Waller and like all that kind of stuff where so he was coming in with that conscious thing of like wanting to get
Mhm.
revenge for Grayson. So they had like this little narrative outside the game that didn't play too much in the edit, but a lot of him coming after Harry was basically just like trying to get revenge for
Revenge.
Grayson
Yeah.
Waller on his season of Survivor, which
Mhm.
didn't really like play for us coming into the thing, but it was
That was the
fun, you know.
redemption. Yeah.
That was his
Yeah.
redemption. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then let's talk about Caleb, who is interesting. I think in a lot of ways, to me, like Caleb has been like the Joker this season.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a little bit. He definitely has that. But so, I mean, he gives great confessionals. I think what's an
Chaos
interesting
Caleb.
thing. Sorry, chaos. Yeah,
Chaos
chaos.
Caleb.
Dude, the craziest one for me with Caleb was when he came into that. He was an interloper on one of the tribal councils, and
Mhm.
I thought he was just going to be like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool, cool, cool." And he came in and was like, "Returnees, you gotta go!" Like, was immediately like dumping on the returnees. I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, okay, settle down there, buddy." But he's had a really unique position of like playing like middling. So he's been between a lot of these alliances where usually you see someone has to pick a side at one point and be like, this is where we are. And you've seen him kind of like group up with Loz and Sally and that towards the underdogs towards the end. But like he was playing very close with Mark. Like he was playing both sides of these
Yeah.
alliances. And to see someone middle, because middling's tough, is a really tough spot to be, and often they get cut like really early. And yeah, to see him do that's been pretty good.
Yeah, he had that one big vote. I think it ended up, was it the rich vote where he ended up where he went to Ben and told them what Mark was up to. And then he went to Mark and
Yeah.
then told him a whole
Yeah.
thing and
Yeah.
really set off that crazy tribal council.
He has, yeah. So he's been doing a lot of that. He's been like playing both those sides of alliances. But I think the thing for Caleb is like he's just a fun guy to have on the island.
Yeah.
And like, when you've been playing a lot of Survivor and everyone's like got no energy and you da 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 da, Caleb is just fun to have around because he'll be like, oh, let's do this or let's do that, or like, I'll entertain you a little bit and keep things light. And like when you're out there, you want to be having fun. You don't want it to be dark
Mhm.
days all the time. Like you want to be playing Survivor and having fun. And Caleb's been very good at doing that and entertaining those guys and like it's a really unique skill to have. I saw it a lot in Luke Toki. Would probably be how I feel a bit like Caleb has those kind of similar vibes of like
Sure.
Luke would always just find fun in like
Yeah.
the most down situation. He'd be like, "Ah, no, I can't, mate. We'll just do this, you know." And that Caleb kind of has that same energy.
Well, that's all you have. You need to have like some kind of a motor where you're enjoying it. And I think that finding the fun in things, I think that that's the only way to, keep it going at like
Yeah,
where you have nothing left. But if you're enjoying yourself, if you're finding the fun, I think that that's a survivor superpower.
it's a superpower, and not everyone has it, but it's a superpower on all these shows. Like traders, like you see it because it's pretty combative. Like we're going at each other, like you're trying to get people actively out. There's a lot of money on the line, and it can get really intense and heavy. And the players that can just be fun and like make you feel good, like you had good vibes, like you can sit on a jury and like, oh, you know what, I had a good time with that guy. Like that really is a superpower, and it's a superpower in all these competitive reality shows.
Yeah. So you're approaching the end of your first season hosting the show. That how are you preparing for the
Oh.
live or the or taping the finale?
Yeah, I mean, I am just going into it with the same attitude I've had for the season. I've been like, of course, like I've been really studying what's been happening in the show, because you have to watch really closely the edit, because obviously there's a lot of stuff I haven't seen, and like I want to unpack, and I'm just kind of like finding those little moments and talking to people. I'm like, did you find this interesting? I want to know more about this, because that's what a lot of the reunion's going to be. But I'm excited, man. I can't wait to. We've got a big like audience. There's
Yeah.
gonna be like 900 plus people there. So
Nice.
they're doing, yeah, they're doing a big one.
Yeah.
I've never hosted anything live like this before, so I'm excited. I think it's going to be a new challenge, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Do you think there's going to be any bad blood at the reunion?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I
Right?
hope so.
A little bit. I like that you
Just
said
a
that.
little bit.
Yeah. Right?
Aussies are pretty good. I think they like, at the end of the day, it's like, it's the game, like what's happened on the show. But then like once you watch it back in real time and you do hear what some of the people are saying, maybe a little bit of blood there. So we'll hopefully bring out some of that. Yeah.
Are you hearing where there's any smoke between any of the contestants? Like, are you hearing rumors of anybody who really, hey, I really want my turn to
To
go
get
after this
stuck into
person?
someone.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I generally try to stay out of the contestant conversations as much as possible.
Right.
Like I do keep touch with all of them, and like make sure when they're voted out, I send them a note just to like thank them, and I stay in touch in that way. But yeah, there's definitely that group chat is pretty hot. I have heard there's some
Really? But they don't add you to it,
hot.
or you don't want that would be inappropriate for you to be in the group chat.
It would be very inappropriate for me to be in the group chat. So I just like let the little birds tell me what's going on now.
Okay. Is there any like mark that you're trying to put on the show now that we've entered the David era of Australian Survivor?
What's the mark? No, I mean, I wouldn't say there's anything really specific. I just want, like, the thing I love about Survivor is you laugh, you get emotional, but you feel something when you're
It's
watching it.
everything.
And yeah, it's just this whole roller coaster of like these players and these characters and our game. And so for me, I just want to keep that. I want the purity of our game to stay intact. Like I want that game to exist and the players to play, and I don't want any like interference with it from production side of things or anything. Like I want those players to play and the best player, because I want it to be a winnable show. I don't want it to be in this situation where there's this random crap thrown at you all the time and like it's purely luck. Like I want skill to be the reason you win Australian Survivor.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Is there anything that you would say to fans who haven't checked out Australian Survivor? Could you make the pitch to them of why they should be checking out Australian Survivor Redemption?
I just think Australian Survivor Redemption is the best reality show on television. I think the gameplay this season is unparalleled. We've got every episode hits and makes you feel something. You might not be happy at the outcome when someone your favorite gets voted out, but you will feel. And I just think we have 24 banger episodes this season. It's unmissable television.
David, what could the fans do to support Australian Survivor even more? Because I know the people who love it, they really love it. They don't want it to go anywhere. But like, what can the fans be doing to help the show?
I mean, talk about it, post about it, watch it. I think like we love our American community. We know it's like so hard to get a hold of the show over there. We really, really want Paramount Plus to put it on, but there's a few little obstacles there that we're not not able
Out of your
to do
hands.
anything
Sure.
about right now or talk about right
Should
now.
they let it be in the hands of the fans? Should they have a vote?
I mean, the fans want to watch it. They might have to start being a bit more vocal. But no, we want it. We want it on Paramount Plus so that the American fans can get it, because we love that fan base. I mean, I live in the States, and yeah, I love the US, and we want that fan base to have easy access to it. But because you can't, we need you to get a VPN and please stream it on Channel 10. It helps us a lot.
Okay. Anything else you want people to know about Australian Survivor and your first season as the host?
No, I mean, I think it's kind of spoke for itself. I think we've got a really, really great season, and it's been exciting. And I think the conclusion is going to blow people's minds. I've got 3 eps left, so get into it.
For us fans in America, could we be hoping for another Australian Survivor versus the world?
I think you definitely should be hoping for that because I really, really want that to happen.
Mhm.
I think it's on the cards. It's just a timing. It's just a timing
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
But it's
Well, that was
happening.
such
It's
a
going to
big
happen.
hit where I feel like that people just were talking about that. And it's like, I didn't even know you knew how to watch Australian Survivor. It just seemed like that
Yeah.
one really did break through.
I mean, it really did, but like also, Rob, what you guys do with the podcasting and stuff is like it's just huge for us. So we really, really
Look, we
appreciate
love
you.
it. We can't get enough,
Yeah,
and I'm so glad that we set this up and I got the chance to watch all of
yeah.
it. Can I ask you a question? And this is maybe a little woo woo, but I think you'll go here with
I
me.
love woo
You
woo.
know,
Let's
I
go. Yeah.
always am so impressed when I think about what you did on Deal or No Deal Island, where that you were able to just tap into just another realm where you were able to communicate, and whether it was your dad talking to you or the universe, where you were able to, you just took the banker, they were the banker's worst nightmare. I just wonder, were you able to, in any ways, in hosting Australian Survivor this year, did you ever tap into anything that was like really helping you in that way?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I don't depends how woo woo we want to get here, but like I'm just very big on
We're an hour and 10 minutes in. You can get as woo as you
we're
want.
I'm very big on this flow that happens with what we do. Like what we do is it's pretty extraordinary. We get put into these situations and games where you need to rely on like almost like an energy or like an instinct that happens. And I could feel that with this season where I would just be like letting the game happen and come to me, and I would like manifest or think about what I would love to happen in each tribal council. And so many times we would go in and that would happen or exceed where I'd hope it would be. And there's this interesting thing where it's like reality is stranger than fiction, right? And a lot of times, like unbelievable things happen on reality shows where you're like, there's just no way that could possibly happen. And it does. So there's this great serendipity that kind of occurs. And yeah, for this season, as I was hosting, I was really trying to channel that as much as possible and just like using those. And the players delivered. Like I was just like feeling their energy and pushing it back to them. And they were just so good this season.
Would we ever see you wear the leather jacket as the host?
Well, yeah, we might. I got to film a little something on Thursday night to bring that urn in. So we'll
Okay.
we'll
That's
see.
exciting.
I still got it. It doesn't quite fit as well as it did.
Yeah. Okay.
I literally tried it on yesterday and I was like, ooh.
Is it just one jacket that you wore across seasons?
It's one jacket I've worn for all iterations of pretty much every show I've done. Yeah.
Wow.
I just get it cleaned. I get it dry cleaned after and it hangs. It's
That's
like,
incredible. What a commercial for the jacket.
I know. Shot perfecto. There you go. That's the jacket.
Yeah. Because I was wondering, like, well, is the leather jacket part of the Golden God character? And now that the Golden God is retired, and that this is David Genat, host of Australian Survivor. Do you think about it?
You gotta pay homage to your past.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to disguise the fact that I played the show. Like, I think that's a huge advantage. And I think there was obviously a lot of chats when we were having of like, oh, you need to distinguish yourself as a host. And I get that. You do need to do that. But like, I never forget where I came from. Like, this show as a player gave me everything. Like from that first time I played to Dondi to Apprentice to Rush to now host of Australian Survivor, like all came from that leather jacket. So it's gone nowhere. I got it. That's my omen.
What are you gonna do in the off season?
Ooh, I would love to play Traders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, we're doing a lot of filming this year. So if things kind of line up, we'll see what happens. But I'm always working on something.
Well, you would be such a force in the Traders for good or for bad, I think, perhaps. So I think that You would be somebody who, again, I just think back to, as faithful, you'd really, I think, I think that you could really tap into something. I think that
Oh.
as a trader, I think that you would be somebody like who was, I think really could get everybody feeling good about you.
I'd never want to be a trader.
Yes, that's good.
Never.
That's good to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, David, I really appreciate you making the time to talk about Australian Survivor. It's great to hear
Yeah,
your
thanks, bro.
thoughts on it. It's been such a fun season, and I think that everybody that I know that's been watching it has just absolutely been loving it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really, really good season. And I think it's got that old school Survivor feel that people like really love, and it
It
just
really
feels big
does.
like this season, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I can't say it enough. It's just like that the Australian Survivor is Survivor for people who love Survivor. It's like, if you ever want to just like watch a bunch of people get to play Survivor, and it's not like, all right, today, you 5 people are gonna vote. Like, wait, what? But what about my alliance? No, it's random. So this has been really just like such a fun, like it's like reading like a great novel. It's just like it's just like all these
thanks, bro.
twists and turns and these characters that you're so invested in after
Yeah,
all this time. It's just really, really rich.
yeah, I agree, and it's like what I said before. Like we want our game to be winnable, and we want skill and
Hmm.
social acumen and strategy to be at the forefront of the game, not crazy twists. Like like we got to throw some in there so that it doesn't get stale with
Yeah.
some of the stuff, but we really
And
want it to be a winnable game.
let me also commend you on that we have an Australian Survivor season, and that this is not always the case, but there's no like bonkers non-elimination stuff that the whole post merge, we've gone straight through. Now maybe you have something up your sleeve for next week, but that I feel like we've been like so good so far through all of these episodes in the post merge.
Yeah, well, we have requirements for television,
Yeah,
like
I
in
know you
Australia.
have to make a
So
certain number of episodes.
you do, and
I
we
get
have
it.
to make a certain number. So that is an unfortunate. But we also like I wanted to make sure that our non-elims aren't just like a throwaway thing. Like there is a way to battle back from that
Sure.
thing, and I
If you
think our
do it in the
producer did a great job.
pre-merge, like it's one thing, but I think in the
Yeah,
post-merge, it's been a really good pace. So kudos
yeah,
on all that. So
yeah.
congratulations on all the success with the show. Anything else you want people
Thanks,
to
Rob.
know?
No, that's it. Watch it. Go watch Australian Survivor. It's amazing.
Okay, check it out. And then, of course, check out all of our coverage here. Mike Bloom has been filling in for Shannon. We let Shannon go on maternity leave
Oh
for this season.
no!
I maybe, a little rude for Shannon to, plan to become a
How
mom
dare
right
she?
during this great Australian Survivor season, but she's been checking in.
Yeah, I think she still watch it.
She's watching every episode and immediately posting thoughts. So she is doing great. But David, thank you so much, and check out everything else we have going on here on
Thanks, Rob.
RHAP. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Appreciate you, man.
Bye.
Peace.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.